with Grade 4 stride units in main decks that aren't Gear Chronicle makes up for an interesting discussion.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight discussion video, and today we're gonna tackle the upcoming next extra booster set for Try3 for the support after the trial decks, that is Next Stage, not to be confused with Next Age. So in this new set for Team Try3, we're gonna see the upgraded support set for their respective trial decks for Altma, Asha and Chronojet. And with that, we saw in the artwork that they're going to introduce their primarily first Stride Fusion version of their Grade 3 counterpart. So that's of course Chronojet Dragon Next Stage, Aerial Divine Knight Altma, and Dream Spinning Ranunculus Asha. Now, those units can spark up an interesting debate as to what that means for the respective clans. As for Gear Chronicle, it's a very easy answer. We know then for sure Chronojet Dragon Next Stage is going to be a Grade 4, just like any other, 15k power, probably will not have a force marker, and that's about it. You can fetch it out with Chronojet Dragon or Lost Legend or Chronofang, and that's the way how you're going to use it, because that's the way how Gear Chronicle is supposed to function. The only thing that we can speculate is what Next Stage's ability is, and we're going to go there in a second. But that will not be the case for Asha and Altma, as we will not have that same mechanic for the Grade 3 version of Altma and Asha in the trial deck. And we can most certainly say they will not get that mechanic, because that will take away from Gear Chronicle's unique mechanic, as we already explained in the trial deck episode of last week, where we went over the overall information provided by Bushrod, is that they explicitly stated that the whole pseudo stride mechanic is the main mechanic of the trial deck for Chronojet Dragon, and they didn't address that for Asha and Altma, where we can basically conclude that any other stride fusion Grade 3 from back in the G era won't have that type of mechanic, even if we get newer versions of older cards like Shaharot, Harry, Nightros, etc. We even see it with Blade Master. He didn't have that type of mechanic, but granted, we didn't get Titan, so we cannot compare it in that sense. So in this video I want to discuss what the potential of these new units are going to be, what type of grades are going to be, what type of skills they're going to have, or at least the interaction between them and the Grade 3 counterpart from the trial deck. But not only that, I want to go in depth a little bit about the set itself, what it will provide, and what, with the information given to us, what we can conclude from it for things like the rest of the support and also the order cards in this set. As we know, this set is going to contain order cards, and everybody's been speculating about the potential of having high rarity order cards and how that can destroy the secondary market, but we can make some grounded evaluation of the information given to us where we can at least deduce something with certainty. So let's dive into the big thing first and talk about the Grade 4 units of these trial decks. And we start off with the easy one, and that is Chronojet Dragon Next Stage. We know for certain, like I explained before, it's going to be a Grade 4, probably will not have a force marker. Happily surprised if it has, because I honestly thought that Chronofang Rebellion could have had a force marker in retrospect, but let's say it won't have one. It's going to be a 15k base, and the skill can be a lot, but what I honestly think is it will either have one single skill, like most of the Grade 4s, as I think all Grade 4s currently have only one actual skill. So either it will have two separate skills, or it has one skill with two stages. And why I'm saying that is that I think Next Stage is going to be doing a certain thing, but it can restand, or it can at least restand like the old Next Stage to some extent. But to be able to do that, we need to have Chronojet Dragon into the soul, or at least have ridden it on top of Chronojet Dragon to acquire that skill. Because I think it's gonna have some restriction to Rebellion, like Rebellion had with Chronofang, where you need to ride Rebellion to be able to discard to give it a crit and a drive check. I think that's also gonna be the case with Next Stage, but the restriction has to be on Next Stage itself, as I explained in my video yesterday where I went over the potential of the Chronojet Dragon trial deck, where we cannot have this restriction on Chronojet Dragon himself, because he is in a separate set in its own trial deck. And you cannot put restrictions on a card that needs a specific card, which isn't in the trial deck where you're gonna buy it. So if you're interested about that discussion about the trial deck and Chronojet Dragon himself, links on top. So that is basically what I think Chronojet Dragon is gonna do in a nutshell. Some kind of random skill, and it can restand, or maybe only restand with Chronojet Dragon, with the Chronojet Dragon restriction, but I think it's gonna do at least something with generic grade 3s that have the pseudo stride skill. Now we go to the actual interesting discussion, and that is Altmal and Asha. I'm not gonna go into detail of what their skill is going to be because it can be anything, and that's not really the interesting point about this video because we're gonna wait and see, and we eventually see their ability. Maybe an avid Royal Paladin player or a Neonectar player can discuss what they think is gonna be, but in this video I want to go over just the general aspect of what this can mean for the clan themselves and what type of direction Bushiroad can take for the rest of the support if all the sets afterwards are going to have a G-focus centric style, as people have been speculating about the set with Grand Blue and Pale Moon and Dark Irregulars. That is very likely that it's Shaharath, Night Rose, and Harry. But they will probably have the same thing. As my hunch is that these new Stride version cards can be two things. Either they are grade 4s, which makes sense as they were Stride units and you cannot really use them immediately. But they won't have the same interaction like Lost Legend, Chronofang, Chronojet will have. So it will take a turn, just like how Brand works, or Escapade, or Novell Express, that it will take a turn to set up. Maybe they will have an act ability from hand that you can immediately write them if you're sitting on Asha or Altmal. That is a potential. But what I think it's very likely is that these new old Stride cards are going to be grade 3s, but they have either a restriction that you need to have a grade 3 in the soul, like Messiah for the leaders, because that was also originally a Stride unit, but it's now a grade 3. But to use it, you need to have a grade 3 in the soul, which mimics to some extent the Stride mechanic. So they could take this approach as well, or they're gonna do what I just explained with the next stage, where they have a generic skill or a part of a skill that's generic, but to unleash its full potential, you need to have either the grade 3 Altmal or the grade 3 Asha in the soul to get the full skill active. I think that's one of the roads they're going to take. Either it's the grade 4, and it can or cannot have a potential hand skill where you can immediately write it up if you sit on the correct grade 3, or it's going to be just a generic grade 3, which has either a generic grade 3 soul restriction like Messiah, or it needs specifically the correct grade 3 like Altmal and Asha to activate the skill. And this can apply for all the other sets coming afterwards if we're going to see more of these G-era strides. Because what I think is going to happen for the future sets, if they're going to be G-era strides, and this also will to some degree incorporate back to this set, is that the VRs are going to be the Stride units. Then every clan will have 2 triple Rs. One of those triple Rs is going to probably be the new Stride Fathers, which we have seen with Claris or Dragon and Vanquisher, and even with Revon. And the other triple R are going to be the grade 3 Striders that are Chronojet, Altman, Asha that now have a trial deck. And probably for this set, we can see Knight of Twin Sword, Steam Knight Ember, and the thir, I believe, for Neonectar. Basically all the Ember clones are going to be the second triple R. That's a very likely thing, very likely scenario. And then in all the other sets, which won't have the Striders in the trial deck, will be the second triple R. I think that's the direction they're most likely are going if the rest of the support after this set are going to be very G-focused. But that's basically the main support of this set, is that we know they're going to focus on Altma, Asha, and Chronojet. The question is what they're going to do for the extra support, because they're always throwing some random support in their respective clan, like they had with Claret Sword that had random Shadow Paladin, Mordred Phantom, and Blessed Dark support, and Aquaforce with Lascard Revan had some Maelstrom support. Will this set have the same? The only thing that has been officially revealed to us is that Royal Paladin will have some enhancement to the existing Blaster theme deck. And that makes sense because right after this set, we're going to have the Majesty Lord Blaster Super Trial Deck or Legend Deck, or how they want to name that once it comes to the English format. So it makes sense in that regard, and I'm very, very hyped for that because I really like the Blaster deck. Not Blaster Blade, he can get the hell out, but I really like the Blaster archetype, only it wasn't really playable, so I hope they're gonna empower that so it makes it at least playable in some aspect. But then for Gear Chronicle and Asha, what they're gonna do to take? Neonectar is very generic, as same as for Gear Chronicle, although Gear Chronicle now have Chronofang, so maybe they're gonna support it with 1 or 2 cards, but we have to wait and see for that. But what is interesting for this set, and this comes back into the order cards. We know this set is going to contain order cards, and a lot of people have been speculating about the potential of high rarity order cards and what that can do for the secondary market. And I know what type of impact it can have, but I'm not really that kind of guy that goes for doom scenarios and like, oh, this can potentially ruin everything. I'm personally living in the here now and being somewhat grounded and sober about these type of things, and want to see what it is right now. And the information that's been presented to us right now about this set is that this set contains 3 VRs, 6 triple Rs, 9 double Rs, 16 rares, and 28 commons. And this can basically tell us immediately where the order cards are going to be found. As 3 VRs, that's crossover. That's are the 3 stride units on the cover. We can cross that one out. 6 triple Rs, 1 is going to be the stride fodder for every clan, most likely. And the other, I think, is going to be generic support card for Gear, Neo, and Altmal. So we can cross that out as well. Then we have 9 double Rs. Once again, it can be equally divided between 3 clans. And usually when that's the case, they will do that. Then we get to the rares. And here is where I think we're going to have a order card. As we have 16. I think we're going to have 5 rares per clan. And we have 1 rare left over. And that is what I think is going to be a order card. We're going to have a rare order card. But then we get to the commons. And the commons are 28. If we divide it into 3, we get to 27. So we have 1 common left. So it's very likely we're going to have 1 common order and 1 rare order. It can potentially be more, as I just divided in by 3. What they can do is have 4 common orders, and then we have 8 commons per clan, and then 4 common orders and 1 rare order. That can be a possibility. I don't believe we're going to have a triple R or a double R order in this set. And if we keep analyzing it like this, we can have somewhat an inkling idea per set where the order card can be found. It can completely change, and we could have a triple R order in this set, as we have seen before that some clans get more than the other. Like maybe Asha is gonna get 3 triple Rs, Chronojet Dragon is gonna get 1, and Alma is gonna have 1, and then we have 1 triple R left. And that could be an order. That can be the case, but I'm not convinced that that is going to be the case. I think it's gonna be equal divided VRs, equal divided triple Rs, equal divided double Rs, and then we have spare leftovers in the rares and commons, and they can fill this up. Also, with these order cards in the mix, they can make sets more equally divided. As sometimes we have these awkward distribution where you suddenly have the amount of rares, double rares, or commons that are not be able to divide between 3, 4, 5 clans depending on how many is in the set. Now they can just give everybody equal amounts, and what's left over they can fill it in with order cards. So there's at least they can do that to make this split of clan support at least somewhat equal. And that's basically rounds up the discussion and the points I want to make across about what's potentially the thing that's going to happen with the next stage extra booster set for Team Try3. But now I want to pass the question on to you. What do you guys think will happen for these pseudo stride units for Royal Paladin and Asha? Do you think they're going to be grade 3s with specific restrictions to them? Do you think they're going to be generic grade 4s? Or they have some kind of effect between Asha and Altma, the grade 3 respectively? And what do you think their skill is going to be? As there's a lot of possibilities between them, but overall it's really hard to discuss. But maybe you have a very interesting idea, and you know, if I hear something interesting, I will cover it on the next week's episode in Cardfight Vanguard discussion. Last week we took a look at the trial decks for Team Try3 and discussed what they're going to contain and what type of potential they could have for the respective clan. And you guys have some interesting things to discuss about these trial decks and the general information that was given to us between these sets. This is a very interesting approach to how Altmal could work, and I'm personally very fond of this idea because it combats somewhat the issue, or at least the overpowered nature of the mechanic where every counterblast needs to be face down, as if you have almost no damage, it will be very easy to attain that condition. And if the ability is really strong, like getting 3 pluses like there's no tomorrow, then it could be really getting out of hand very quickly. But by applying this approach, like a pseudo Tiger Rebellion approach, this makes the clan a bit more controlled and opens up for more options in card design from this main set as well. And it's very interesting how they could utilize that to its full capability. So I'm all aboard about the amount of face down will apply to what type of power it has than just generically having everything face down as that could spiral out of control very quickly if it's too easy to attain. Ah, so you're one of those Spike Brother players that will always play with Adelaide as his heal triggers. I can respect that. Skies Fubuki, we probably won't have to wait any longer as she will be with us very soon. If only they start making Arlim. Funny that you said that. I discussed that in yesterday's video, links on top, where I went over the potential of the Gear Chronicle trial deck in the Road to Next Stage episode, and he might have been mentioned in the video, so if you're interested in that type of information, then links on top. Wait, did I say Asha? I believe it's Asha, right? I mean, it's with an H, so I've always said Asha. When did I say Asha? Ah yes, I've seen this many times before, even before this whole trial decks was revealed. As the moment when we knew which clans were force, everybody was already laying the connection between Team Try3 being all force clans, and hence Try3 Triforce. But what I don't know if everybody has caught on, what is very interesting, is that the original colors for the trial decks for Asha, Altmal, and Chronojet, and even with the new trial decks, are red, blue, and green. Which are the gemstones for courage, wisdom, and strength? Did they do that on purpose? Although, if they did do it on purpose, why is Altmal the one for wisdom? I mean, you should have been really courageous or dumb to play Brave back in the day of Giera. And so I think that should have been the green one. And Asha, with the way how Bloom worked in the Giera, you need to have a pretty high IQ to make the correct plays and know what the hell you were doing when piloting that deck. So Altmal should have been in green trial deck and Asha should have been a blue trial deck. Which somewhat makes sense as there was suddenly a blue Asha, but we never got a green Altmal. So when are we gonna see Altmal in a green hat, a high spandex, and a sword and a oh wait, he has a sword and a shield. He does have a sword. Where is his shield? Does he have a shield? I don't know. Does he have a bow though? At least its name will be remembered as the main founder of Gear Chronicle's strength. Although his name has been forgotten, people will always remember him as a legend. And that wraps up today's discussion around Team Try3's upcoming extra booster support called Next Stage. Leave me down in the comments down below what you guys think of all the potential of this extra booster set, what the new VRs are gonna function or gonna look like. Are they gonna be grade 4s, gonna be grade 3s, some name restriction, that kind of stuff. What type of skill are you expecting it to have? Leave all your discussion ideas, topics, and suggestions in the comments down below, and I will feature them in the next episode. As always, this video has been brought to you by our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/Vanguard Insider. If you do want to support the show, you can simply do that by heading to patreon.com/Vanguard Insider and become a patron today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Timely, and I see you guys in the next one!